When you start to look at food as a spiritual messenger, food is actually giving you this window to the soul, what's happening in the body.
Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. We are exploring the mystical side of life once again this week. If you enjoy our conversations, remember to subscribe, share with a friend. Today, we are talking about food as an oracle. I have Lainie Sevante here with me. She is a multi-dimensional healer, and she's known worldwide as the Food Oracle. Welcome, Sevante.
Thank you so much, Linda. So good to be here.
I actually really like this topic because so many spiritual people consider food for the soul and food for the body being something totally different.
That's really the basis of all my teachings, is that we are one body, although we have four bodies: emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual. And you can't really have one without the other. There's always a balance really needed. And so there are those who focus the food for the body, right? That would be the physical. But it's the feeding of our mind, our mindset, that really helps with the mental realm and definitely our emotional well-being. And then there's the feeding of the soul. And so it's really prudent and essential that we look at doing all of those things. I think that once you do that and you start being more mindful of how we're feeding our entire temple, that is sort of the beginning of the road to high vibrational wellness, to health and well-being, harmony, all the things that people are searching for. You can't have one without the other. You need a little bit of nourishment in all the directions.
I suppose that it also does really feed your spirit when you're looking after your physical body, right?
Well, if you're connected into spirit, there's a consciousness that is in you and your relationship with the divine, however you see that. And once you start waking up, it's like once you see, you can't unsee. But when you start to look at food as a spiritual messenger, and that's what I teach, food is actually giving you sort of this window to the soul, what's happening in the body. So, for instance, when you go to the grocery store, I call it soul shopping, and you say, I wonder what I want for dinner tonight. And you lock on avocados. I need avocados. I think I need guacamole. Let's do Mexican. There's something to that. Soul's so ahead of this sometimes unconscious physical human sense. And so I've created a guide that allows spirit to allow you to understand, why am I craving avocados? And could it be related to the word that's on the oracle deck where these teachings sort of were birthed? Or could it mean there's something having to do with my chakra system? Or maybe there's something related to nature's five elements. We're all nature. So there's been clues. Spirit's been given clues in Mother Nature all the way. That's why certain foods look like the body part, the organ that they nourish. So the body is the key to everything else coming into one accord. It's not just, you know, having something on your dinner plate and not even knowing why you chose that. Could it be something emotionally that happened today? Could have been a celebration. It could have been something, sad. But our choices are very much dictated, and we actually can reverse and change and modify moods and all sorts of areas of our life once we start consciously connecting into spirit's communication with food.
So this goes way beyond, say, eating natural food or raw food or organic food, or even being happy while you're preparing your food.
It goes way beyond that, but that's a really important part. In fact, I early on in my career worked for a very famous Hollywood chef, and She worked for, or we supported and served for all the A-listers, and she consciously was so aware people were arguing, they had to leave the kitchen, and how to kind of pray over the food and raise the vibration, increase the frequency by merely just putting our energetics into the food. And energy, frequency, and vibration became really a key to me looking at food. So you're right, being happy makes a big difference. And that's why actually some very enlightened beings don't even go to restaurants. They don't know who's preparing vibrationally unless they do their own transmutation and do their own. I mean, I provide lots of prayers in my books and affirmations on how to bring those changes forward. And I think that's really important. It goes well beyond any particular type of diet. Yes, there's the fruitarians and there's the breatharians and there's the vegans. And it's even more than all of that because it's a direct correlation to your own soul connection to the divine and what is individually for you, not the universal diet. It's like, what does Linda need right now for her highest and best to bring forward the highest vibration for her body? And you can ask that, and you'll see a color, you'll crave a food, you'll be shown what is in alignment. And if you didn't have just that intuitive access, that's a big portion of why I created the Center for Intuitive Food Therapy, the Food Healing Oracle deck, which was born about 5 years ago, well, lifetimes ago, I guess, because I came in to do this, is that guide that says, what should I make for dinner tonight? And you pull several cards, and it actually will make a spiritual enlightened meal for your body.
What happens if you go to a restaurant and you can't decide what you want to eat?
I talk about soul shopping, and what that is listening to your soul of what you need in present time. And you can adapt that. And what that is really getting an attunement, calling in a prayer, an affirmation. I provide one. And getting clear, what does my body need right now? Because maybe yesterday in the last week, you loved salmon all day long, but today salmon's not in resonance. The same principle could be applied to at the restaurant. It's like, what does my body need right now for its highest and best? Maybe your body wants to tell you you need to have asparagus, which actually is our transformation card because you're getting ready for a big presentation that evening or the next day. There are foods that can help the moods, help you kind of set up for success. So it's almost just taking that pause and getting present, allowing the humanity of you, the human part, to step aside and asking spirit, what do I need in this now moment for my highest and best or highest good, or, to nourish my body, to help me prepare for this presentation, to calm my nerves. What do I need right now would be best at this restaurant? Having that one step before you make a decision that's just unconscious.
What you're saying is that a food has a role in our life, not just the nutrients, not just the taste of it. Take asparagus. If it has a role to play in our transformation, then there are definitely certain foods we could tune into to help us on our path. It's kind of like choosing a crystal that has a resonance or an energy that can help you on your path. I think that's fascinating.
Let's just carry that a smidge further. And here is our asparagus card in the Food Healing Oracle deck, the first one. And it's actually our transformation card. So if you are really going through a crossroads or a change in your life, or you're making a major move, or you're beginning a new relationship or leaving a relationship, something is really on the rise for you. And you pull or you crave or you're thinking about this asparagus card. Actually, when I do teach a class on this, and for the tarot lovers out there, I've interpreted the major arcana where all 22 are related to a food. But to let you see, this transformation is actually in tarot is the death card, which is that major upheaval, that change, that, beginning of something new because something has ended. Doesn't always mean literally. But this also is very transformational for the physical body because nutritionally it has major ingredients to detoxify the liver. We need glutathione to help break down and begin the process of releasing the old, the dead, the toxic that no longer serves us. So the asparagus is actually also saying it's time to clean out your body and start anew, and the asparagus will help you do that. So there's many things one little vegetable can tell you.
That's fascinating. How did you ever get an idea to create a deck like this?
I have to say that it wasn't an intention to do that. I believe my entire life's work has kind of led me from one thing to another. When I was a child, and I come from I'm the fourth generation of intuitives in my family. So I grew up with tarot and oracle cards in my hand while other kids were playing Go Fish and Crazy Eights. This was my toy. But when I was about 8, my mother was getting a reading, and the reader looked down, and my mom said that she said to her, you know, your daughter died of food poisoning in a past life. And she said it wouldn't be a surprise if she ended up doing something really magnificent in food in this lifetime. Well, I was just so young, but as it would turn out, that did happen. I was always a little bit of a germaphobe around food, a little bit of a hypochondriac. Oh, checking the expiration dates. Is that mold? There was just always this hyper sensitivity around food and preservation. And not that that stayed with me, but better explained if past lives dictated that food was, considered dangerous. So I ended up getting a degree in food science, in dietetics and nutrition. And I continued my studies. I ended up working, like I said, for a chef who was very renowned. And so I was in the foodie world, but I was also this kind of food science person. And I was always interested in food healing and still kind of stayed that my whole path. And it wasn't until about 5, 6 years ago at this point that I had met another colleague who had an interest in food. And we started talking about our passions separately from other projects we had been working on. And I, at that time, actually was taking an advanced food healing. And it just kind of like ding, came together. Wouldn't it be great to express all of my worlds, my passion for food healing, my intuitive multimodality sense of being, and what would be the best way to combine my worlds? It could have been a book, it could have been a documentary, it could have been, but it was like, oh, an oracle card deck, just bringing a spiritual wisdom to the food, a chemistry, a nutrition. Like it was really absolutely divine. The first deck came out in 2020, right during COVID, and that was 60 foods. And then people were writing to us for the next 2 years and said, we want more food. We had chefs making intentional meals based on it. Well, now we're in like 35 countries. The decks have gone everywhere. And people kept saying, we want more food. So we made a second one 2 years later, 2.5 years later in 22. I'm now writing a third one. We'll see when that comes out amongst my other things. So I realized that food was that one component that people were curious about. Everybody eats, and they wanted to know more about the foods that they are craving and choosing for their meals for themselves and their families. And it was just kind of like, from the past life message as a child to, now in my 50s, so many things have happened. I've been told over and over that this is why I was like destined to be this food oracle and help explain a lot more about ourselves for healing.
Totally fascinating. Now, let's say we draw a card. We draw that asparagus card for a message. Is it enough just to get the message of transformation, or is there some benefit to actually consuming that food to help?
Yes. And I love that you asked that because that's one of the things I tell people. So if they have the deck, the Food Healing Oracle deck, and they pulled asparagus, there would be a spiritual wisdom, something saying why you chose that. But then there's going to be a practical gift, as I call it, something about that food. And that may be boring. And people will say, oh, yeah, it detoxes the liver and it's got glutathione, da, da, da. And that could be boring. But I say, please always read that because if you're getting a hit that is the food you should be consuming, I would be eating that because our bodies are listening. I want to increase the transformation. Or joy, which is our mango card. I want more joy in my life. I'm going to eat mango. So we want more clarity, blueberries. I'm just thinking strawberry, love. We want more love in our life, strawberries. And there's many different schools of thought that this has been done in some way. I mean, Dr. Emoto, who's one of my major teachers, put words on water, right? And so a crystalline structure looking at water under a microscope of love versus hate were very different. Well, food's mostly made of water. So why not put a word onto the food? And so that is just one slice of the teachings. This is something for your body. Now, when you think about, just as an example, somebody had come to me with depression and very sad, dealing with some grief. And I was starting to look at foods, and I knew there were different foods that would be great for her. But don't discount foods that have vitamin D in it, right? And vitamin D, as we know, really does help with depression and anxiety, as well as sunlight. If they're going through something emotionally, mentally, if they read the practical gifts of the food, they're like, yeah, I do need more B vitamins because I'm on ultra stress level and this food contains that. Eat more of it. You're getting soul's message to you right now, naturally, how to shift out of your, emotion or mental space.
So we choose a card, we get the message, we eat the food. Do we also put our power of intention into that while we eat the food?
I think that's exactly what needs to be done. It's creating that focus and that intention. That's creating that high vibrational space of allowance and manifestation to do that. Going back to the food, blueberry, they look like eyes. They provide clarity. That's the word. And if you're needing to get clear on something, you can intend to just have a nice little bowl of blueberry and really see what that will do for you. I'm intending to get the answer to my problem. And actually, if you think about it on a level of nature's 5 elements, right? We're nature. People forget that. They think they go to the rivers, the oceans, they climb, they go hiking, but they forget that we are earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. So let's say earth is our bones, air is our breath, fire is the chi, every part of our system, cardiovascular, reproductive, endocrine, everything needs the fire. It needs the energy to move everything and heal, detoxify. And water is our blood, water in our bodies, and spirit's our soul. So here we are as this walking embodiment of nature. So if we go to the air element, Father Sky up in our heads, that blueberry is all about an air element. So if we're trying to get grounded and clear on a decision, we need to eat foods that start to ground us, providing foods that will bring us more rooted into the earth. So we can look at kind of playing with the elementals of food as well to get those answers that you seek.
Blueberry is very good for your eyes too.
Absolutely, they look like eyes. One of my food healing teachers said he eats an organic carton of blueberries every single day. I put them in my smoothies. So I intend to have good eyesight. I intend to have clarity for my day, and I put it in my morning smoothies. And that's actually why I wrote a smoothie book for those people who want these things. They may not want to make a whole meal, but they can have a recipe of, a clarity smoothie. I am clear on my decision smoothie. And I wrote 38 recipes with an attunement. So you can literally make the recipe and there's an attuned affirmation as you're drinking. And we've done workshops, smoothie workshops where people drink the smoothie and then they drink it as they're inwardly reading and reciting that focused of that drink going in. And they can feel the difference, especially enlightened people are like, I can feel the frequency. I know that I'm going to have my answer today. They just become it. stepping into their power.
Do you have any miracle stories that you could share?
I have so many miracle stories. I love my work. And the first one that comes to mind, I always just have to tune in to see what shows up. So we have a card called Eggplant. You like eggplant, by the way?
Not particularly.
It's interesting. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's kind of like cilantro.
I love cilantro. It's funny because we didn't grow up eating eggplant. The first time I cooked it, probably the only time I cooked it for my husband, he took a bite and then went and threw up immediately. But I didn't know you had to assault it to
Oh, yeah.
release the toxins. So it was like, oops, yeah.
Yeah, to break it down. So here is our eggplant card. It's actually really pretty. They're all very pretty, but it's our shadow card. Well, it's a nightshade. Some people can't do nightshades. They don't do well with them. That grows at night. But when you come out of the shadow into the light, it means that you're ready for a change. So I guess I'm going to call this group the Muggles because I was literally presenting to a crowd who, if you mention the word oracle, I don't think they were going to groove with what I was all about. I had to call them food flashcards for this certain presentation. I mean, I gave a little woo-woo anyway, so I had everybody go around the room and pull a card, and a woman pulls eggplant. And she reads the spiritual message and then she hands the book back. And when I hear someone say the key expression, they didn't connect at all, she goes, "Oh, that's interesting." And I thought, okay. And she read the spiritual message. She didn't read the practical gifts. So she hands the book back. And then I said to her, by the way, eggplants are phenomenal. They're one of the best with okra for scrubbing your arteries. And her eyes went ding, started crying, and she said she had artery disease. In that moment, she realized she had a spiritual knock on the door. She bought all my books. She totally realized that that was a message because she could have chosen 124 foods and she chose the one that was getting the attention of what she was going through at that moment.
I'm someone who believes messages come from everywhere and anywhere. So they're always there in front of us. I'm curious, Sevante, if you would pull a card for us and give us all a message.
I'd love to. So let's do that. Let's just say, we'll just ask the divine, the guides of the Food Healing Oracle deck to be with this wonderful community now and just what is in the highest good that we need to know from the Food Healing Oracle deck. And today I'm pulling from volume 1 and I'll pull one card and see what we get. So this is our elderberry card. And you see it says immunity. And you're probably wondering, what does that mean? So I thought what I'd do is I'm going to actually read to you from the deck so you can kind of get a sense of what it is. And then I'll add my 2 cents into that. How's that?
That's perfect.
Yeah. So we pull the elderberry card in its immunity. And back during COVID, I was guided to specifically add that one in. It was going to originally be in a future deck, but people were so concerned. I mean, literally the deck, our first campaign to raise funds for this, like a Kickstarter, was the end of February, beginning of March of COVID, just when it happened. And Spirit said, no, you need to add this to the deck. People are wanting to get their hands on elderberry syrup. They want to protect their respiratory system. Everybody was scared. And so I remember back in those days, here I am trying to raise money for this idea that's never been done before, and people were panicked. But every day I would post a card. Garlic protection, ginger feelings, how's everybody doing? And then the elderberry. So here's what was written for the elderberry card. And this is for the group. Elderberry asks you, what are you fighting for? Are you standing up for yourself or others, or perhaps fighting the status quo? There is a time to fight and a time to lay down your swords and surrender to a higher cause. You are not immune to the circumstances that surround you in this moment. Just think about how you are showing up. There are always going to be those times when you build up your immune system and fight like your elders did, as well as those times when you need to let nature take its course and let all unfold as it should. You get to choose what is right for you at this time, where the universe is going to do it for you. It's time to build up your emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual immunity by focusing on your authentic self. When you give in to the expectations of others, you lower your vibration, which lowers your immunity. So stay in your own truth and allow the path to open before you. And that was just a spiritual message. So anything in there that kind of raised a little buzz for you?
I'm seriously laughing on the inside because there are a lot of people that have never eaten a fresh elderberry. They don't know what it looks like, what the plant looks like. I grew up with a grandmother who had an elderberry bush, and I would go and eat those elderberries. I couldn't wait until they were ripe. And then where we live now, we're very close to some wild elderberry bush.
Oh, oh.
We go and harvest them. We make jam, we make syrup. I love the taste of elderberry. And I do think it's actually a pretty profound message for everyone.
My hit to surmise sort of that longer message was to pick and choose your battles. Like, don't sweat small stuff. Kind of stay immune to like the rhetoric, what other people think. Everyone goes left and you're feeling to go right. Like, keep yourself strong. It said, what are you fighting for? Like, you don't need to fight, actually. You just need to hold in your knowing. A second deck came out, and the second deck is actually the truth card, and which is our bok choy, and we use it as our throat chakra, speaking our truth. And this is sort of that. Like, everyone can tell you this is what you need to do, but you need to be immune to that and learn to have your intuitive dialogue with the divine. And that's what this card is saying. And that's the message for the group.
I like that distinction of the use of the word fight because it inherently holds some challenges, let's say, whereas focusing on where you're going, what you want to create, who you are is a much more powerful way, I think, of steering through the challenges.
No doubt. And that's just one card. But look how much time we've taken just with one card, how thought provoking. I mean, I have had some study groups where we pulled one card and a group of 6 talked for an hour and a half on broccoli. There was so much to be said because when you pull these cards, it's not just the word, not just the food. It could be the picture. It could be something going on with the colors. There's a lot. You can read the cards 4 or 5, maybe even more ways. And imagine knowing when you're preparing a meal what you have. I remember going to years ago when we were first presenting this at different events, people would host these gatherings at their homes, and someone prepared a really beautiful salad. And it was very colorful. It was like what we'd want, eating the rainbow, everything healthy. And I remember saying to everybody, I want you to realize that not only is the salad beautiful, thank you to the host for preparing it, but I also want you to realize that in this moment, you are eating growth, acceptance, joy, love, support, etc., etc. And when they realized that they were eating those vibrational words, vibratory meanings of these words, they just were blown away that they can make those meals anything they want. They can make it a meal of healing and inspiration, which would be red bell peppers and avocado. They can add some fruit, pineapple for expansion. I'm expanding my inspired healing journey. And you literally can say that. So just as an example, and I was looking over at the High Vibrational Wellness book, I've taught classes on just what this cover is and why these foods are in their order, how many, where they are, what does this mean, what is the symbology. And so this is about expanding your healing, pineapple and avocado together. So you can intend your meal to be that for you and your family. My husband and I do that all the time.
I love that. I'm curious, Savante, if someone has a food allergy or a food sensitivity, is there a message within that because there's that particular energy that they're not able to take in from their food?
Yeah, and so I'm not a doctor, I don't prescribe, I don't say it's this or that. However, in my journey and what I've seen a lot is that allergies are showing up for many messages. And yes, they're coming out as the physical, but sometimes they have become that well before on the etheric level and in your lineage, sometimes in your DNA, there's an emotional trauma. There are certain things that I have seen and experienced personally and then with others that allergies are showing up as a messenger. And there's something either emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual going on. And it's a much bigger conversation. But if they pull a card and they're like, I'm allergic to that, it doesn't mean they have to go eat the food just because. In fact, I knew a woman who was allergic to cucumbers, and cucumbers are our balance card. So typically at spas, you see cucumbers in the drink, they're pH balanced, they bring balance. It's just a wonderful card. And it's a wonderful food. But this particular woman said, I cannot eat cucumbers. And she goes, but I definitely am out of balance. I would love some balance. So I said, well, can you do like a cucumber bath? Like, can you get like a body wash or something that's got cucumber and take a bath in it? She said, I actually can. And so there's ways around something, and then maybe take some time to reflect on that, your relationship with cucumbers, and see cucumbers, what are you showing me? Like literally, it's a vibration, it's an energy, just like money is, and just like everything else, food is an energy. So see what cucumbers is asking of you to learn. Maybe you can move on out of that allergy, or maybe you need to address something else. But there's always a teaching in it. And we say that all the time. We don't get our big messages when things are all great and roses and unicorns. It's when we're having a darker side or we get sick or there's something that shows up is we need to look at that shadow side of life. So anyway, so that is my sense of allergies because it's a bigger subject and it does on multiple interviews, it comes up a lot. It's an important one to look at. My bottom line is that it's a bigger picture because it can mean different things. And sometimes it can not even be yours. It could be directly like part of the DNA of your ancestry. And in fact, one of the chapters in the new book, High Vibrational Wellness, the wonderful Denise Flood, she talks about healing generational wounds around food that stay locked in our tissues. So maybe allergies plays a role there.
So fascinating. Do you know offhand what turnip means in your oracle?
I don't have turnips in the first or second deck. It will be implemented in the third deck. But why do you ask that, actually?
I asked that because I had a scan once, like a biofeedback scan, and I was told not to eat turnip, which is not a problem for me because I don't like turnip and I don't eat it. But they said to stay clear of it because it would activate an ancestral gene of greed through eating turnip. And I thought that was really interesting because I don't eat turnip.
I happen to love turnips. In fact, at Thanksgiving, that's a tradition is to make turnips. I will have to go back to see if that has been assigned a word yet. I'll have to get back to you. That was a stay tuned, but it was not in our first deck or second. But turnips are a root vegetable. And so I would be looking at the root chakra. There's also some purple and some white. So there's a little bit, I'll have to get back to you as I develop that card, about it. That's great. Usually we have the food, we have 124 and it's all only fruits, vegetables, herbs, nuts, and spices. But see, like something like this is how we ended up with the second deck. People are like, what about this food? What about that food?
I suspect that the origins of that genetic greed thing might have to do with the time, either in the Depression or further back where there was food scarcity and turnip was what people had to eat.
Yeah, potatoes, turnips. Yeah, there's a generational piece there. There's no question that. I think that's why we were talking about that chapter, healing generational wounds around that, and go back to your roots, right? We're talking about a root vegetable. So there is more to that.
Fascinating. Sevante, thank you so much for being my guest today. Where can we send people who want to know more?
I invite everybody to go to my hub, my world, my love, my community. It's actually the Center for Intuitive Food Therapy. I know that's long, Center for Therapy.com. But we abbreviate it. We call it SIFT, CIFT. So it would be CIFTofficial.com. Either one of those will get to us. And you can learn about our classes. We go deeper into dives. We have certifications for the cards. You can become an intuitive food therapist. And then we have lots of classes and retreats, and we do lots of different things there to help people lift and expand.
Perfect.
So 2 things I want to offer your wonderful community, and you, of course, is that I've also taken food and created messaging through meditations. I call them 5-minute medicines, both me and my colleagues. We've taken some of the foods that we've had in our food healing oracle decks and made meditations. So one of our most popular ones is called Positivity. It's actually our Peaches card, Peaches Positivity. But anyways, I invite you to enjoy that one. That is free for you. You can download that. So that would be Center for Therapy.com/positivity to get that free meditation. And then also, if you see anything on the website, my signed books, the food healing oracle decks, many things that are there, a 10% off code would be just putting in the word cherries. And cherries is our community card. So just put in cherries and you'll be good to go.
Thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. This is really wonderful.
And thank you for listening to this week's edition of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find all of our conversations on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform. Come visit me at ThoughtChange.com, pick up your copy of Learning to Listen, and we will see you again next time. Bye for now.